In 1989, the anti-subversive strategy begins to incorporate new elements. For example, the rural residents of Ayacucho organize into self-defense committees and receive weapons from the state. In 1990, the Heiin is created. This is a special intelligence group consisting of members from the National Direction Against Terrorism, who were now dedicated to the surveillance and apprehension of the leaders of Sendero. The state repression becomes more intense, and the peasants begin to lose their initial sympathy with the Shining Path. The Shining Path widens its field of action into the jungle, where the presence of the state is almost non-existent. The Ashaninka communities in Junin resist this advance and are punished. Hundreds of natives flee their land looking for refuge in bordering lands. At the beginning of the 1990s, in spite of the economic and political crisis, the population demonstrates their preference for democracy and take part in elections and organize peace movements and marches. The escape of 47 jailed members of the MRTA from Castro prison at the end of President Garcia's term in office contributes to the image of mismanagement. When Alberto Fujimori assumes the presidency, he does not possess an alternative strategy to fight against terrorism. His security advisor, Vladimiro Montesinos, and the armed forces apply the counterinsurgency plan developed by the army in 1989. More pressure is applied, and the armed forces, supported by Alberto Fujimori, begin to apply a more progressive plan. The Colina Group, a paramilitary group operating under the orders of the head of the intelligence service, Vladimiro Montesinos, makes its presence felt with the killings of Barrios Altos. In November 1991, legislative decrees to pacify the country are dictated by the executive. But some of these are blocked in Congress because of their unconstitutional character. On April 5, 1992, Alberto Fujimori stages a coup d'etat and dissolves Congress and gives the control of the principal cities in the country to the armed forces. The majority of the population endorses the coup, expressing a belief that this national crisis needs to be addressed with a strong hand. The terrorist attack on Tarate Street in the traditional district of Miraflores shocks Lima more than any other terrorist action before. 2 months later, Abimael Guzman and other top members of the Sendero hierarchy are captured in a residence in Lima. The meticulous operation is a product of the intelligence work carried out by the Heiin. Fujimori emphasizes the success of the operation and gives his de facto government full credit, and wins the support of the electorate in a referendum that approves the text of a new constitution passed in 1993. In 1993, a letter written by Guzman in prison calls for a peace agreement. The Senderista leader, Oscar Ramirez Duran, Feliciano, decides to prolong the armed struggle, but reducing the field of action mostly to the Ene and Huallaga regions. The defeat of Sendero is not only due to the success of police intelligence, it also reflects the resistance of the rural self-defense committees and grassroots organizations. Hundreds of arrested are tried in the so-called faceless courtrooms, and torture and clandestine executions become a regular procedure carried out in the shade of the National Intelligence Service. The Constituent Democratic Congress, where the executive branch exerts majority control, approves a series of unconstitutional laws, such as the law granting general amnesty that benefits the military and the police who committed crimes during the war waged against the subversives. Alberto Fujimori is re-elected president in 1995. The hostage-taking at the home of the Japanese ambassador in December 1996 is the last gasp of a weakened MRTA, who hope to trade their hostages for prisoners. The military operation that liberates the hostages 4 months later leaves 14 MRTA members dead in unclear circumstances. In 1999, the Senderista leader, Oscar Ramirez Duran, is captured in Jauja. Alberto Fujimori's third electoral victory in April 2000 is rejected by an important sector of the public and of certain members of the press that are sensitive to the evidence of fraud and corruption. In September, Fujimori is forced to call new presidential elections where he would not run as a candidate. 2 months later, while in Japan, he resigns the presidency of Peru. On June 4th, 2001, the transitory government of Valentin Paniagua creates the Truth Commission, whose mission was to shed light on the violence that had rocked the country between 1980 and the year 2000. On November 4th of the same year, President Alejandro Toledo widens the scope of the commission and renames it the Commission of Truth and Reconciliation. It is indispensable that the country be made aware of the conditions that fostered the painful events of those decades. The national reconciliation demands that the perpetrators of the violence be recognized, and for the payment of reparations to the victims. This need does not only concern human rights organizations. It is the responsibility of all Peruvians. The truth cannot fade into oblivion, because if it does, history can repeat itself.